Hey everybody, thank you for joining us again. We're the three middle-aged dudes just bullshitting about nothing. This is the Reverend.
The Theme here.
And Gray Mouse 1.
And we're just going to go ahead and do the Geek Weekend review. First thing, big anniversary date for a really beloved franchise. March 22nd, 1996 was the release of, Resident Evil on the original PlayStation.
Not that much beloved anymore as far as the whole franchise goes.
Well, we're talking about nostalgia here. That's what anniversaries are all about. All right?
Yeah.
I mean, the thing about Resident Evil is that it wasn't the first survival horror game. Actually, not by a long shot. We were talking about this before. The Theme brought up Alone in the Dark, which was on PC. On home console before this, there was Clock Tower on the Famicom, but it never saw the light of day here in the States. I guess we could even talk about Friday the 13th on the NES if you want to be really about it. All right. But as far as
knives at Jason.
I was going to say Jason.
Yep. I mean, but as far as the genre goes, Resident Evil pretty much paved the way, and they broke the genre wide open for the home console market. Without Resident Evil coming out, there's actually a lot of games afterwards that would never see the light of day here, especially in the States. Fatal Frame is one of them. Silent Hill, which is another one. And there's a whole plethora of survival horror games and other games that are kind of in that vein. Alan Wake is a little bit more modern and everything else, but you have a whole bunch of games just that were directly influenced by Resident Evil and its sequels. Resident Evil 2, which is a classic, and also Resident Evil 3 on the PlayStation. It's
funny because Code Veronica was one of my favorites.
Yeah. Of
the whole series. And it was one of those games that, first it came out for the Dreamcast, and then later it went to the PlayStation 2 with the director's cut. And it was one of those games where it just was like, wow, they took Resident Evil, smoothed it out, and then just made it that much better.
There was a huge jump in graphic fidelity from Resident Evil 3. Actually, from the first one to the second one, there was a huge improvement.
Yes, it was.
From 3 to Code Veronica was, again, another huge improvement in graphic fidelity for the series. It also helped that Code Veronica showed up on the Dreamcast first. And because of that, it really showed a lot of console players, this is what horror can look like. You can also kind of credit Code Veronica for when Resident Evil started to take that left turn to go ahead and turn itself into an action game. Because, yeah, once you gain the ability to go ahead and dual wield in Code Veronica, fights weren't actually ever that challenging anymore.
It's funny because when you had Steve, your bullets were limited.
Yeah.
It's funny because during that time, everybody was looking like Leonardo DiCaprio from Titanic.
Yep.
But nevertheless, the Resident Evil series, 20 years, that's a long time. I've made videos about this before. I wish that this year would have been a Resident Evil 7.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That would have made a lot of sense to me. But to come this far and to actually have ammunition to keep going, maybe.
Well, I know as far as Revelations and Revelations 2 that came out a little while ago. They're good games, but I wouldn't exactly call them survival horror games anymore. And I think a lot of people, one of the reasons why a lot of people are celebrating the HD re-release of Resident Evil 2 is because they're just bringing it back to their roots. That's one of the things that a lot of people want. They like to be scared, and the zombie phenomenon. It hasn't gotten, any less popular since then. It's actually a lot more popular now than it was back in 1996. With The Walking Dead and everything else that's out there.
Oh,
yeah. It's definitely a great series that's basically went ahead and it's run through. I think it's kind of sad that Capcom seems to be a little bit more concerned with putting out either episodic games, because that's how they handled Revelations 2 in episodes, or
Street Fighter V is an episodic game technically.
Yeah, or what they're doing with just going all out to, like I said, more of an action shooter and everything else. Not only with the last few Resident Evils, but if you look at Dead Rising, that's pretty much a co-op or versus multiplayer action game. So yeah, it's a little disappointing to see where their creative people are actually going, but I'm not going to deny its place in history. It's definitely opened up the genre for a lot of folks. Any thoughts, Grey Mounts? No.
No, I have to agree with you guys that I think after Code Veronica, it took that hard left and kind of turned itself into a action adventure game. And a lot of, I have to give.
What about 4 and 0?
Yeah.
Well, 4 went ahead and it kind of showed that, hey, look, we can do this. We can do this in a style that's not the tank controls and everything else, and it's not just static pre-rendered backgrounds with fixed camera angles and all of that. Because the truth of the matter is that with these really early 3D games, one of the things that I hated dealing with is, okay, going through a stage or whatnot, and then being ambushed or running into certain death because right around the corner where the camera won't turn and I can't see is a horde of zombies just waiting for me. All right.
I remember how they got away with the load time where you show the door that you're going through.
Yep. I know that as far as I think they have Resident Evil available on the PC, and there's a mod that removes all of the doors. It just
that's cool.
No, I mean it removes that animation because the thing is that it's streaming off of the hard drive and it just goes just like that.
See, a lot of people weren't too keen on the over-the-shoulder views from the later game.
Well, see, Resident Evil was that type of game that started the safe place bullshit, dude.
I wouldn't call it that per se, because it's like, all right, look, you needed a break from all of what was coming after you. It wasn't fair at certain points.
Yeah, it wasn't.
You needed the save room.
Some of the games that one thing that you forgot to mention, the Reverend, was I just had it. Oh gosh. I just completely thought, oh my god.
Resident Evil without the save room will kind of be like Pac-Man without the tunnels.
Pac-Man
but I mean,
power pellets.
Like
oh no, fuck that. I would never pay. No.
With Resident Evil, they opened up the doors for like Left 4 Dead type of games as well.
Yeah.
You know, Left 4 Dead is a first-person shooter. Yeah.
I mean, Left 4 Dead it's brutal. You cannot go away from your group or you'll get.
Do you think speaking of which, do you think there'll be a co-op Resident Evil game, old school style like that?
I don't know. And the thing about it is that this game right here, especially if you do the B-side stories, all right, where they do the alternate stories after they finished it through, it pretty much shows that they can set the environments up, especially right now with online gaming. It should be possible. you know, all the multiplayer that I've seen so far, especially for the Revelation series, has mostly been versus. I believe they tried to do the multiplayer co-op thing for Raccoon City, but what was happening with that was that the gameplay mechanics on Raccoon City, as far as being able to run and shoot at the same time, were kind of janky. So yeah, it's one of those things where I believe a few years ago the saying that was going around was that Japanese developers can't do first person shooters, or they can't handle it where you're shooting and running at the same time. And yeah, that was one of the games that they showed everybody. They're like, yeah, you know, every time you try to aim, you have to stop the place. You know,
I just hate it when you ran into walls but you didn't stop. You would just keep
take controls. Yep.
It's like, come on, man. It was just hilarious to me that they kept that until what? Did they ever stop that? I mean,
well, I know as far as the tank controls go, everything after 4 doesn't control like that anymore. So that's one thing for sure. But you know, the thing with the tank controls is that I think that wasn't Resident Evil wasn't the only game that suffered from them. I know Tomb Raider did. A lot of 3D games at the time suffered from tank controls. It wasn't until they figured it out later. Hey, look, just give a direction control in reference to the camera or wherever the character is at, and that should work out fine.
That was my major gripe about Resident Evil games was the camera. It was horrid.
When you enter a certain area, the camera only be in one place.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's funny because how it was split. One room will be split in two. Like if you entered one side of the room, then the camera will change. It's like, man, fuck.
Yeah.
I mean, there are other great games that did that type of shit, like Legacy of Kain Defiance.
Yeah.
That game did that shit, and it was annoying. But it was just like, this game is great, but stop doing that.
I know there was quite a few places in Legacy of Kain Defiance that I died simply because the camera fucking changed position. Yeah. I mean, I love the game to death, but
it's funny because I remember like when I played the first Shenmue game, and I was like, wait, not once did I complain about the camera angle. No matter where you turn, no matter where you were, they centered behind you for the most part, unless it was like a scene where you're talking to someone. But I was just like, wow, I've never complained about any camera angle in this game. They got it right.
Yeah, it was also a fully 3D rendered game. It wasn't all pre-rendered 2D backgrounds, which was a lot of Resident Evil, you know.
Well, I mean, Final Fantasy VII was pre-rendered backgrounds as well, and that's around the same time frame as Resident Evil. 97 it was when Final Fantasy VII came out, so it was around that same area. So, I mean, that were the times, you know, that they were just experimenting with 3D games.
Yep.
Well, Metal Gear Solid was kind of like an overhead view.
Correct.
Yeah, and then, but the thing with Metal Gear Solid was that they had the idea to go ahead and render out everything fully in 3D as far as the maps and everything else goes.
It wasn't pre-rendered, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't a pre-rendered 2D.
Oh, that game couldn't have been. It wouldn't have been right.
It wouldn't have worked.
No, it could have worked, but it would have played a lot like the NES.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, fine.
That version is classic, but it would have played a lot like the NES Metal Gear. So
it would have been just loading screen after screen after screen, then.
Yep. It would have.
Well, loading screens, that was the thing.
What was that?
Well, yeah. Not for the 64.
Yeah.
Well, Mario 64 kind of showed the way 3D games are supposed to be done.
That was the thing about that game. That game was just like, all right, look, you want to make 3D? This is how to fucking do it.
That was a paint by number thing. How to do it, man. It's just like, look, this is how you do it.
And now wait a minute. Most genres learn from Nintendo somehow.
Yeah.
Learn from Nintendo and their games on how to really do shit correctly.
Yeah, there are a lot of mechanics that a lot of industry folks went ahead and they took from Nintendo games, especially in for Mario and everything else was, okay, 3D control. All right, full analog control. This is the type of shit that you could do. Okay.
Funny how Mario revolutionized directional pad and analog.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing about it was that, up until that point, the analog movement was pretty much, okay, I can do full 360 movement. But nobody went out of their way to really go ahead and show, all right, no, if you want to sit there and walk slowly, your character can sit there and tiptoe. Mario can tiptoe across an area. But it can actually be used for something.
Oh, right? Yeah.
You want to sneak past those sleeping
the plants.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, go ahead and tiptoe.
If you try to run too fast in certain places, yeah, you're either gonna fall or you're gonna wake something up. So you can sneak past them or baby crawl. It was kind of hilarious.
But to get back on Resident Evil, it's definitely a beloved franchise. Up until I think Resident Evil 5 and 6, they kind of went crazy with it.
Well, I can understand. They tried to push the envelope.
They did, but it just, I mean, and I have to agree with you also about the Resident Evil 7. I mean, we still have hopes for E3. There might be an announcement. I wouldn't be too.
What, this day and age, Capcom?
Well,
Capcom. I mean, they did some good things, and then they stumble, and they do some good things, and they stumble, and they do some good things.
No, they didn't stumble. They saw a clip, and they were like, "All right,
I'm gonna jump off it."
2.
No arcade mode in Street Fighter 5. Man, come on, dude.
Yeah, but
what?
I think
that's for another time. Resident Evil, 20 years. Come on. Most genres, most games didn't even see 10.
Most series, don't even see that long. So.
And I mean, some games do see it and then they stop.
Or what you see with a lot of series is that they get really big on one particular console, and once the generation moves on to a new console, they pretty much disappear.
Yeah.
A lot of old 16-bit games are like that.
Yep.
But Resident Evil, definitely a great series. I mean, it's been on every console ever since the PlayStation. There's even a Game Boy Color version of Resident Evil. And it's ugly, but it exists. All right.
I mean, with Resident Evil 7, if they even think about that, I mean, is there enough story left? I mean, they pretty much told.
They keep blowing up cities.
Yeah, I mean, Raccoon City was a I was what, and then 6 and 7, and you're like, or I'm sorry, 5 and 6, and you're like, what, and then you just like.
You'd be surprised on how much story can be squeezed out of a certain franchise.
Well, Final Fantasy maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, although they're not connected, the stories aren't connected, but still.
Hey, now wait, most Mario games aren't even connected except the fucking characters. There's no storyline there. They just keep making games, and they just keep making them good, and that's it.
Yeah. So with Resident Evil, it's a beloved franchise, and I like to see it moving forward. Into the So I would hope Resident Evil 7, make it happen, Capcom.
Do it correctly, Capcom. Don't have that shit episodic. Don't have it. Okay, this episode you play as this person. This episode you'll play as Chris. No, don't fucking do that. Just bring out the fucking game. Cut out all the DLC and just bring out the full game as it's meant to be. If you're going to do a Resident Evil 7, and if you are going to announce that E3, just do it correctly. We're going to pull out our wallets and throw cash to it.
I mean, Resident Evil was the game that actually got me into the survival horror genre. It's one of the games that did. I mean, it's a good series. It's a good franchise, and like I said, I like to see it continue.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I mean, a lot of us want to see a lot of the old franchises come back, and I would love to see a new Resident Evil. Whether or not it's a 7 or another spin-off series or whatnot, it's really up to Capcom to go ahead and do what they do. I would like to see them touch on the old magic and actually make it survival horror again. If not, shoot, anything else that's out there, Capcom. Clock Towers is yours. Dino Crisis is yours. Just try something. All right.
Power Stone 3, please. Rival Schools 3, please.
Yeah. With that, last 45 seconds, thank you for watching the video. Please hit subscribe below if you liked it. Sorry we couldn't be more entertaining, but we always welcome comments and feedback. Again, this is the Reverend.
This is the theme here.
And this is Green Mouse 1.
Go ahead.
Once again, for the benefits of common sense, logic, and gaming, credits.